This is a brush dance song. It would be used in a healing ceremony, usually with a child or a baby. And no, hey, and no, hey, and no, hey. Whee! My name is Kayla, and I am Kuruk, Yurak, and Hupa. And we are at the Solano Pride Center. I first heard the term Two-Spirit within the Native community a few years ago when I first came out as queer. I identify as queer because it is a good blanket term, I guess. So for me, it kind of represents sort of a freedom to identify however I feel comfortable without having to justify it to other people. In the past, Two-Spirit people would have been very accepted in a lot of our communities. A lot of that was pushed down when we were colonized. Particularly Christian missionaries came over here and told us that that was not right.
The language, it's never not been a part of me, I just don't know what it is. Notung Elfrank, none tongvet kukavet, koi raramuri koi ahashmim. My name is Elfrank. I am Tongvet Kukavet. My village is what is now Rancho Cucamonga. It's at the foot of Mount Baldy down in Southern California. I'm Raramuri from the mountains of Chihuahua, and I'm a Hashmim that's from the San Juan Capistrano area. And my tribes also include Pimu and Minar, which is Catalina and San Nicolas and San Clemente. I can't remember its Indian name though. The subject of Two-Spirit doesn't come up in, passing down from, oh, my grandmother told me the story about the time she slept with Susan. Those sorts of stories don't ever seem to get passed down or asked by anthropologists. What you get are people knowing that something was going on, but now since they're all Catholic, they don't want to talk about what they knew. Once I started doing language work, I then came across terms and the people who knew, who knew where to look and how to help me find things. Ya'ash Shungal is man-woman, Shungal Ya'ash is woman-man. The one that I just looked up, or just found, I must have looked at it a million times, is Nachawut, a woman who dislikes men or men who dislike women, which is funny because I'm Two-Spirit, I'm Nachawut, but I don't dislike anybody. That's not, so it's not dislike in the term of separatists, I guess. The term Two-Spirit is a very individual term. It covers a lot of bases. To some, Two-Spirit is strictly a spiritual thing. Two-Spirit are the only ones who can bury the dead. The sun dance that people know very little about, but that sun dance, there's a central post that they suspend themselves from, and that tree that was blessed in the old time by a Winkte, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but by a Two-Spirit person. We permeated the sacred and the profane parts of life. To me, my Two-Spirit is a term of, it's part of my service. That I'm able to do other things that are needed. And that historically we always have been, we Two-Spirit have always been those who can do what others cannot do but need to be done.
I'm Deborah Miranda, a member of the Ohlone, Cotonou, and Esalen Nation. The term Two-Spirit was actually invented in the mid-1990s by a group of gay and lesbian Native Americans who were searching for a word that was more culturally accurate And knowing through mostly oral traditions that there had always been this other gender or this other gender role in most Native communities in North and South America, knowing that and having same-sex relationships and yet not feeling completely a part of the GLBTQ sort of community. The only term I know for sure that refers to variances in gender and sexuality is the Chumash word aki. The terms that have survived may be a handful of terms, and we only have those because those were recorded by the Spaniards, who in the end disposed of those people or erased them. And so the priests would write down in the record, this person came in, he says his native name is such and such, we baptized him as such and such, and he is a Hoya, or they would say a mujerado, a womanly man.
Joseph Wato Ashiao, Ahjahjai Wa'a, Batinklechawi Heto. My name is Joseph Byron, and I'm from the Ahjahjai people, the Pomo people, from Sebastopol. I'm also from Kashaya and from Upper Lake. I'm also Coast Miwok, from Bodega Bay area, and Yuki from Round Valley. When I was 12 years old, I had a dream, and in this dream, I can hear all these languages being spoken to me. They were all, these different languages and stuff, and I could respond back. I heard this voice tell me that I was going to learn our languages, and that was going to be part of my responsibility. I woke up and I was like so excited. I was like, Mom, who do you know that's, speaks our language? And she's like, I don't know. I ended up going to Berkeley, and I was going through some of their notes and everything, and finding, information on our language, because we didn't have any speakers left. We were using old wax cylinder recordings and a lot of handwritten notes. In Coast Miwok, there's not really a word that was remembered that, that can be, equally translated into being like two-spirit or someone who is gay, lesbian. But there was a term that was used for a male that would wear women's clothing. He would also do like women's work. So that term, they were called lushi.
Haukamamutamawa, Weyachihi, Karen Vingeault, Elquanan, Nipai, Santa Isabel Indian Reservation, from the mountains of San Diego. My name is Karen Vingeault. I'm a citizen and member of the Santa Isabel Indian Reservation, or the Ipai Nation of Santa Isabel. Technically, I am Ipai because we are from the north, and we're also called Kumeyaay. We're in San Diego in English, but this is technically Kumeyaay land. Our land goes from the ocean to the Arizona border, to northern San Diego, and then all the way down to Ensenada. No one's been able to give me an actual term or even a joking term for anybody that is not heterosexual, we'll just put it that way. It was a conference, I believe, up in Canada, and up there they came up with a term called two-spirit. And they wanted to take back what was something more that would just be a native term, a term that would just denote native LGBT individuals. I don't like that term because a lot of it made it seem as a third gender, as someone who is neither male nor female, but a third gender. And I don't think of myself as that. I'm fully a woman. I love being a woman, and I'm a lesbian. One of the things that I thought of was, why not just sort of create a word? Because we don't have certain words anymore never, for things that are sort of new. So the term lesbian, it would be a new term. Two-spirit's a new term. So I was thinking more like woman that loves woman. So that would be sin in Yehovah, sin, woman loving woman, or for a male, ikwich in Yehovah, ikwich.
Maya Wikelando, Maya Wim, Kelando, Maya Wim, Kelando, Maya Wikelando, Maya Wikelando, Maya Wim, Kelando, Maya Wim, Kelando, Maya Wikelando, Maya Wikelando.
So I just started doing this and really wanted to learn what these songs were talking about, because when I was first started singing, I did want to be a leader. Then you realize it's not about being a leader, you know, it's about preserving, about learning where you come from. So I started to learn language more and more, learning more and more about songs, singing more and more, and it makes your heart happy. My name's Donovan Nation. I'm from Verona. My people are Kumeyaay. We come from the ocean. A lot of people know us as Vingeaults. We lived at the ocean near the coast until we were shoved off. We were shoved off the coast, and we traveled through San Diego, what's known as San Diego County. I would consider myself homosexual, but I don't consider myself what the government would consider themselves, the LGBT. I'm unique. I'm not everybody else. I'm unique. I'm not LGBT. I'm who I am, you know? I'm a helper. I'm a community member. I'm not better or lower than anybody else. Other tribes honor two-spirited people, or that's not what Kumeyaay's call it. That's what other tribes say. Somebody told me yesterday it's called Ipai Heshla. Ipai Heshla. I guess that's the modern term for a gay or lesbian Indian, or whatever you want to say. I don't know. Like I said, I don't put myself in the category. I'm not in a category. I'm who I am. And if that bothers somebody, that bothers somebody. I'm not gonna go out of my way to fix it. You can't fix something like this. It's just the way you are. That's the most advice I could give to somebody, is be who you are. That's what my mom told me growing up. Be who you are.
Mishmin Tuhis, Kanrakat Canyon, Coyote Woman, sayers-roods. I come from Indian Canyon, and I have ancestry from what we call Ohlone territory. The term Ohlone came around in the turn of the century, right around 19th century, and definitely 21st century phrasing. I identify with it, though it is a word that my ancestors would not understand. I am in Indian Canyon, which is within the Mutsun linguistic territory of Ohlone territory. So, that being said, I identify as a Mutsun woman. Indian Canyon happens to be the only federally recognized Indian country between Sonoma and Santa Barbara along central coastal California. I am not familiar with California indigenous words that would identify our third gendered community. It's frustrating because I know it's true in my heart, I know it's true in my mind, I know it's true within my community, though we still need that Western colonial academic validation. So some of those first words are really hard to reconnect to. So I use two-spirit or that third gender. I identify as gender fluid, pansexual, polyamorous. A queer future potentially to me would mean honoring truth and history for all of our nations.
Hauka Menuea, Inyaj Kenny Ramos, Wiichahi, Inya Unuwe Wiichahi Benegas Nyapuma Welch, Quesamak, Verona Indian Reservation, Kupai. My name is Kenny Ramos. I'm Vingeault Ipai Kumeyaay from the Verona Band of Mission Indians. I grew up on the Verona Indian Reservation, which is in East San Diego County, and that's where we are right now. We're on the Verona Indian Reservation. My experience with the language mostly came as an adult. As for words that describe like a non-binary or like a non-heteronormative identity, I've learned of Ipai Tla. That would directly translate to a person of the moon. There's a time when things are made, things that align with the sun and things that align with the moon. And there's people that are aligned with the sun and derive power from there, and then people that are aligned with the moon and derive power from there. as far as like what it specifically described, whether that described like a female that then took on characteristics of a male or vice versa, that's open. We're able to use our dreams, and we would dream about maybe what was going on and then able to offer advice. For me as a Native person, my Native identity always comes first. My like indigenous identity, my connection to land, that is forefront at everything. My connection to community. So it's like, and to me, that's what Two-Spirit really even signifies for me. It's just the intersection of these identities, the intersection of being indigenous and being like non-heteronormative in a like white patriarchal society. Oftentimes, I think in the LGBTQ plus community, there is focus on these labels that are all still colonial labels, and they're all rooted in a Western colonial idea of gender and sexuality. Whereas for tribal nations and a tribal perspective, like sexuality is essential to all living things. And so to the idea of like separating that sexuality from the living thing and then categorizing that, and then, you know, that's colonial. For me, like my sexual expression, my gender identity, all that, that's just a part of me. It's nothing that is any like different or outside of me that needs to be labeled or categorized. It's just how I am. I think that, or I hypothesize that maybe a lot of us are in the process of reclaiming those ways of knowing like right now, because I know that's how it is for like my community right now. And I think maybe that may be the case for tribes across California. And that's because of our like atrocious history with the missions and, you know, Mexican ranchos and California Indian slavery. All those things have worked to really like destroy our culture. And only now are there, I think, our tribes really trying to get back into those traditional ways of understanding and revitalizing our ways of knowing through language, through ceremony, through songs. For me, I don't know if it's like I'm rooting for a queer future as much as I'm rooting for like an indigenized future or like a decolonial future. But like when I look around and a lot of the like big issues that are facing not just this country but also the planet in terms of like the environment, like how do we get back to indigenous ways of knowing, which oftentimes are like, you know, well, not even oftentimes, like pretty much always rooted in connection to the land and living in balance with the land. But that only comes after we start to actually acknowledge the history of this country, which is founded on settler colonialism, and we acknowledge the people whose land everyone is standing on, and we acknowledge like their connection and their culture and start to treat that as something that's valuable